Hello, online arts community. Welcome to Fleetwood-Jourdain Theater's Stay Creative in collaboration with Piven Theater Workshop, a journey through the history of Black theater, a series with me, Professor Bria Walker. Today, we will talk about the early 20th century superstar comedy duo of Bert Williams and George Walker. As you may remember from last week's lesson on minstrelsy, minstrel shows were the most popular art form in the U.S. from 1850 to 1870, and it influenced many entertainment styles that came after it, vaudeville being one of them. Egbert Austin Williams was a West Indian immigrant born in 1874. He was raised in the British West Indies until 1885, when his parents moved to Riverside, California. As a youth, he became skilled on the piano, the banjo, and other musical instruments. After graduating from Riverside High School, he briefly attended Stanford University and for a while worked San Francisco's Barbary Coast with a song and dance act. In 1893, Bert Williams joined Martin and Sieg's Mastodon Minstrels, an integrated troupe, and toured Northern California mining and lumber camps. George Nash Walker was born in 1873 in Lawrence, Kansas. George Walker left home at a young age in order to pursue his dream of becoming a stage performer. He joined a traveling group of minstrels who performed at shows and fairs across the U.S. It was during this tour in 1893, at the age of 19, that Walker would meet 18-year-old Williams. The duo toured on the minstrel circuit, performing at medicine shows, hoochie-coochie joints, and mining camps, and agreed not to use blackface in their song and dance act. Performing in the minstrel circuit proved to be dangerous for the performers. At a mining camp in Colorado, some of the miners felt that the duo was dressed too well for Negroes and stripped Williams and Walker of their clothes. According to history, the two barely escaped with their lives. Williams has said it wasn't until he was on tour that he experienced the depth of racism that existed in America. It wasn't until a performance in Detroit that the two would decide to utilize the blackface makeup. According to the New Yorker, quote, "When desperate for a permanent spot on the distinctly less deadly vaudeville circuit, Williams, the straight man of the team, blacked up. To his surprise, safe behind the obscene mask, he found himself suddenly free to play the clown, and the act got laughs as never before. He was no longer the straight man, and by the time the pair reached New York, they were billing themselves as, quote, the real coons, end quote." Williams took on the role of the shuffling coon, as he put it. According to author Jas Obrecht, quote, "A sensitive integrationist, Williams was reviled by the notion of wearing blackface and playing the stereotype. As an actor, though, he discovered that his new coon mask allowed him to fully step outside of his own personality to create a stage character. Williams stated, "It was not until I was able to see myself as another person that my sense of humor developed." Obrecht continued that, quote, "Williams' failed attempts to become a serious singer and actor, due in large part to racial barriers, convinced him that acting the nigger, as it was expressed in the parlance of the day, was his surest avenue to success. He diligently studied and mastered the exaggerated stage dialect of the minstrel nigger, which he claimed was as much a foreign dialect to me as that of Italian," end quote. George Walker became the straight man and did not wear makeup. He took on the persona of the dandy, the flashy, mischievous, fast-talking Zip Coon, and served as the dignified counterpoint to Williams' bumbling Jim Crow type of character. Offstage, William was an amazing businessman and managed the affairs of the Williams and Walker Company. While performing their vaudeville act throughout the United States and recording many original songs, Walker and Williams popularized the cakewalk, and the more they toured, the more their popularity grew. While at a photo shoot for a promotional advertisement for a cigarette manufacturer, Walker would meet Ada Overton, an extremely talented dancer, choreographer, and comedian. She would become Williams and Walker's choreographer. Walker and Overton were very adept at performing the popular cakewalk dance. Their agility with the dance style made the act even more popular, and within a year, the two would marry. In 1898, Williams and Walker were hired to appear in the Will Marion Cook, Paul Laurence Dunbar collaboration called Clorinda, or The Origin of the Cakewalk. Towards the end of 1902, Williams and Walker were in the planning stages of In Dahomey. They again teamed up with Will Marion Cook, who composed most of the music, and Paul Laurence Dunbar, who served as lyricist. In Dahomey would be the first musical on Broadway to be written and performed by blacks. The show would star Williams and Walker, and the cast also include their wives, Ada and Lottie. The song, I'm a Jonah Man, from the show became wildly popular. The show became so popular that Williams and Walker took the entire cast to London to perform for the Prince of Wales. It was from there that the cakewalk would sweep Europe. The cast performed all over England and Scotland. Williams's notoriety increased in Great Britain, and the show ran for over a year in Europe. Williams and Walker returned to the U.S. and toured In Dahomey across the U.S. for 40 weeks. Looking to top the success of In Dahomey, Walker began planning their next musical called Abyssinia. Abyssinia opened in 1906 in New York at the Majestic Theater. It was this production that would introduce the original song Nobody, which Bert Williams is most known for to this day. It would become his signature song.
Now, he never done nothing to nobody. Now, he never got nothing from nobody no time. And until I get something from somebody sometime, I'll never do nothing for nobody.
According to entertainer Ben Vereen in the PBS documentary Broadway, the American Musical, quote, Bert Williams used blackface as a social statement, and behind that mask, he could say anything he wanted to. If you listen to his lyrics, to the character he portrayed, though he made people laugh, he made them think. And during that time of the early 1900s, that was unheard of, end quote. According to writer Mel Watkins in the same documentary, quote, Williams did something to that character. He almost turned it inside out. He became the fool who speaks with the voice of a wise man, end quote. Williams and Walker's final collaboration, Bandana Land, opened on Broadway on February 3, 1908. Williams debuted an early rendition of what would become one of his most beloved routines, a pantomime poker game with Williams portraying all of the characters. George Walker's big solo number was Bon Bon Buddy. It was during this show that Walker's performances would begin to falter. Walker had terminal syphilis, and his symptoms were beginning to affect his work. After a while, Walker could not continue in the show, so Ada took over her husband's role. At the age of 38, in January of 1911, Walker passed away. After Walker's death, Bert Williams began to strike out on his own. In 1910, Florence Ziegfeld hired Williams to be one of the stars of the Ziegfeld Follies. Many of the performers threatened to quit. They didn't want to share the stage with a black man. Ziegfeld called their bluff. He told the cast that they could all be replaced, but Williams couldn't. The cast backed down, and the show went on. Williams would be the first black man on Broadway to perform with an all-white cast. Williams stayed with the Follies for the next decade. During that time, he also appeared in films such as A Natural Born Gambler, where you can witness his iconic pantomime poker game, and Fish. He would also go on to record many original songs that would further catapult him into stardom. Towards the end of his run at the Follies, Williams became ill with pneumonia but did not want to miss performances. In February of 1922, Williams collapsed during a performance in Detroit, Michigan, which the audience initially thought was a comic bit. Helped to his dressing room, Williams joked, "That's a nice way to die. They was laughing when I made my last exit." Williams returned to New York, and a month later, passed away at his home in Manhattan. He was 47. Williams was an immensely talented performer, a man whose skill set far outweighed the limitations of his time. He paved a way for all Black performers to come. What a debt we all owe to this man who did what many could not, be a beacon of artistic light in a dark racist world. And for that, we salute you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. And viewers, don't forget our call to action. We want to hear how Black theater has impacted your lives. Send us your stories. Keep your submissions to 400 words or less. And if you have any pictures that you'd like to share, send that our way as well. Submit your work to fjtheater@cityofevanston.org by 12 p.m. on Friday, May 1st. Please note, by submitting your work, you grant Fleetwood-Jourdain Theater the right to review and share your submission via video and on our social media platforms for the Stay Creative series. Don't be shy. We can't wait to hear how Black theater has impacted your lives.